Dr. Jaffe, can you explain how or why someone would develop protective antibodies to foods?
Oh, I'm happy to explain, and it's a very important point. Immune responses can be helpful, neutralizing, beneficial, or they can be harmful. So let's say during a time of distress, you have some digestive disorder and you break tolerance, you develop an immune response. And let's say that immune response is B cell, so it produces antibodies. Initially, the antibodies are complement fixing and harmful and reflect the fact that there's trouble. But over time, your digestive microbiome, your digestion can change. The stress level you're under can change. Your neurohormonal adaptation to the stress level you're under can change. And so routinely, commonly, antibodies switch over time from harmful to helpful, from complement fixing to neutralizing. And it's very important for people to understand, for example, when we recover from childhood illness, we develop neutralizing protective antibodies in case we see that particular substance again. Same thing with foods. The body doesn't know whether what's foreign is from a food or an infection. The body doesn't care. The body knows us and not us. It's called self and not self in the technical literature. So the answer is that it's routine for antibodies to be beneficial and helpful. And the assumption somehow is that antibodies from infections are helpful, but antibodies from foods are harmful. Only people who don't understand immunology, and many clinicians are fine clinicians, but they're not expert in cellular mechanisms. So the answer is that foods routinely generate helpful, neutralizing, beneficial antibodies. And if you want to know what's really troubling the person, you must use a functional test like the lymphocyte response assay by ELISA Act that we offer, something that cultures the cells and allows the reacting cells to distinguish themselves, because only harmful antibodies, only unhelpful, only troublesome antibodies activate lymphocytes. Lymphocytes ignore neutralizing antibodies because they're helpful. And the B cells, the lymphocytes that respond to true food antibody provocations, are smart enough to know that a harmful antibody works one way and a neutralizing helpful antibody works another. So measuring antibodies, which we've been doing for 100 years, is actually passé and confusing. Because if you have an antibody, say an IgG antibody or any kind of an antibody, offhand, since it's not a functional test, you can't tell if it's a helpful or a harmful antibody. So very important point, foods can produce helpful, neutralizing protective antibodies. And the best literature from Ted Knicker and other colleagues is that 3/4 or more of the antibody responses are beneficial in neutralizing. So if you look only at antibodies, you get confused, first because you can't distinguish helpful from harmful antibodies, and as or more importantly, you miss the T cells that don't require antibodies that are very important in delayed immune reactions. So foods can produce helpful, neutralizing immune responses, and you need a functional assay like LRA by ELISA Act to distinguish helpful from harmful antibodies, and also to pick up other immune systems.